From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell and I am in the ABC commentary box at Perth Stadium on the edge of the Swan River. We've witnessed the opening days of the Test series between Australia's men and West Indies here in Western Australia, and it's an absolute delight to actually be in the same room as my co-presenter Jim Maxwell for once.
Yes, Ali, we're the pigeon pair. Although you might think we're in different places, we are sitting next to each other in this wonderful stadium. It seats about 60,000, but we got 10 and then 7 on the second day, so that's 1,000. The atmosphere's been good, so's the game so far, but everyone said it was going to be a lively pitch for the bowlers. But as you'll hear, it's been anything but.
And I'm Sunil Gupta, but I'm not in Perth. I'm in New Delhi, where winter is slowly setting in. Lovely sunny winter afternoons, and they warm us into the evenings. But actually here we're spoiled for choice because there's so much cricket going on. And, of course, the soccer or the Football World Cup, which is going just about 2 hours away from us in Qatar. And congratulations to the Socceroos. Yes, Jim, yes, absolutely.
I can't believe Jim didn't mention it in his opening.
Yes. Well, thank you, Jim, for leaving it for me. And, of course, for England. This time the cup might actually be coming home.
Jim and I are here at Perth Stadium. It's a vast empty bowl at the moment now that everyone has cleared out for the night. A ring of fire, if you like, the floodlights around the uppermost rim of this Perth Stadium. Australia piled up 4 for 598 declared. West Indies closing the day with 74 runs on the board without losing a wicket, so they're still more than 500 runs behind. But Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne both racked up double hundreds. Don Bradman's record of 29 Test hundreds was equalled when Steve Smith passed the 100 mark on the second day of the match. But there was a really tantalising prospect. Jim wasn't there, and Son will get your thoughts on this as well. Watching the Test debut of Tejnarain Chanderpaul, son of the great Shiv Narayan. So he went out with the bat. Faced quite a barrage, Jim, didn't he? But he really came through, and it was a highly commendable 47 not out that he closed day 2 with.
Yes, we had the old guessology in the commentary box as to what position the West Indies might be in at stumps, having been pretty ragged in the field and conceding all those runs. So none for 74. It was astonishing. In fact, Australia struggled to create any chances. There was an LBW review. There was a tad close umpire's call. And there were 1 or 2 nasty deliveries that tangled up the young batsman. But it was a pretty serene, resolute performance by the 2 openers to get through 20-odd overs before stumps against a much vaunted Australian attack. But as we saw a couple of years ago against India, sometimes the great bowlers, as it were, don't get the result that everyone expects. And that was certainly the case tonight, which has given this game a bit more steel and the hope that it will be a 5-day contest, particularly when you look at the scoreboard. And 4 wickets only have fallen for 672 runs. So it's a batsman's paradise at the moment.
It is, isn't it? So, when we talk about father-son combinations in Test cricket over the years, there has been many, hasn't there? This Shiv Narayan, Tejnarain combination does seem to have a lot of people excited, and it was exciting to watch him in the flesh today. A 26-year-old on his Test debut, but there are a lot of similarities with his father, Shiv.
Yes, left-handed, the similar stance, and obviously under the tutelage of Shiv Narayan Chanderpaul, he must have learnt the basics very well, because I remember when he used to play against India, he used to come in, I think, number 4 or number 5, somewhere around that point in time. He used to say, oh my God, we can't get him out. He used to hang around like a limpet. And I think, opening, I don't think Shiv Narayan ever opened in the Test matches, but Tejnarain opening at Perth against an Australian attack, as you said, the vaunted Australian attack, I think this will do him a world of good. Will do West Indies cricket a world of good.
I understand the grandfather did a lot of the teaching and the coaching of young Tej, because Shivnarine moved to Florida so many years ago, and Tej stayed back with his mother and grandfather in Guyana, and therefore he spent a lot of time with his grandfather, who did a lot of the coaching, so almost sort of learning from the same tutor mentor that Shivnarine learnt from as well. Jim, got to touch on the crowd numbers in Perth, because this first test match has started on a Wednesday. You mentioned the numbers, which were low, 10,000 odd on the first day and a little over 8,500 on the second day. How worried are you about such a low attendance for an opening test match of the Australian summer? Because, I've just spent a week in Perth in the build-up here, and, everyone's sort of saying, the summer starts with the start of the test series in Australia. That's the significant moment for the start of Australia's men's cricketing summer. But where are the people?
10,000 for the first day of a test in Australia is not far off the mark for a non-India Ashes matches. You don't get big crowds wherever you start beyond Sydney and Melbourne. So it's not that much of a surprise, to be honest. And given, as you say, it was a Wednesday, the schedules dictated that they've got to start Wednesday here, Thursday next test, and then Friday in Brisbane to give them rest days and so on. So that's a problem. And if we'd had 10,000 at the WACA, you would have thought the ground's full. So this is a 60,000 capacity stadium after all. So 10,000 tends to get lost in the place. But the important thing about what we're seeing so far is that Test cricket can be sustained as a worthwhile game, because we're overrun with all this white ball cricket, and the last thing this summer needs is to have a very one-sided series against the West Indies and then South Africa. So it's good news for Test cricket, and hopefully for the fans who'll start to think, oh, these blokes can play a bit, I might go and watch. And we could be here on Saturday and see a decent crowd. But I'm not surprised with the crowds, given all the things that have been happening. What surprised me really is that the West Indies have shown a lot more fight so far to give us hope that it will be a contest.
I do want to talk about the England-Pakistan Test series, which has got underway, because England's men are in Pakistan for the first Test series in 17 years. I was on the tour in 2005 that England's men last went on. This is a highly significant tour. But there were talks that this match would actually be postponed by a day after waiting that long for it, because 14 members of the England squad picked up a virus, and just the day before the match were being advised to rest rather than train in Rawalpindi. But they did get underway finally. And Jim, how good is it to see these two sides playing? They've got a 3-match test series in Pakistan finally.
It's fantastic, just like Australia playing earlier in the year against Pakistan. And I hope that they have a wonderful series, and it's pretty clear from the opening day that Bazball or whatever it is paying off, despite the fact that England had to restructure their playing 11 because of all these problems. And good thing they won the toss, so they could bat first, and most of the Sickies could have a spell in the room.
Sunil, it's a lot closer to home for India. Of course, we know the relationships with India and Pakistan. India aren't going to be travelling to play tests in Pakistan anytime soon. But the significance of this tour for everything that goes into cricket and beyond.
Oh, I think it is hugely significant. I mean, Sri Lanka has been going there, Zimbabwe have been going there, the Windies have been going there. But for England to travel after so many years, I think that really does, it's a signal. I think that things are well with the country. And I think Pakistan will take great heart and great hope. Not that they've done too well in the bowling department, which is surprising, but nevertheless, they will take great heart that the world is now coming back to them. I think it's great for cricket in general, because as it is, there's such a small cluster of countries that play high-level cricket. And if two of them are not playing, then that does take away certain things, like England and Australia not playing the Ashes, for whatever reason. It just takes away from the game. So I think it is for both the subcontinent as well as for England, for Pakistan. It's a big day. It's a big moment. I'm very glad that the virus did not really disrupt. And sometimes, you get a lot when you face adversity. To put in Zach Crowley, who'd done nothing in the summer and then suddenly goes and scores a century, and everybody else, I think that will give them really, enhanced hope that they can play on the subcontinental pitches, because that's always been, again, the way that India goes to England and gets done in by the swing, done in by the spin over here. But I was astonished to see Pakistan's team makeup. I know there are people who are suffering from injuries like Shaheen Shah Afridi, who got into the World Cup and stuff. That suddenly all the old bowlers who bowled against Australia were there for the Test series, Noman Ali, so on and so forth, they're not playing. I think that is one of the issues that Pakistan cricket need to address. They make so many changes in their Test team, especially, series upon series. I think they need to have much more settled 11, and I think then you will see much better cricket from them.
So, Jim, I noted the score for England after the first 12 overs of the innings, and England were 87 without loss. Now, Pakistan were 84 for 3 after 12 overs of the T20 World Cup final. So it's almost like just translating the game from T20 to red ball, but without the fielding restrictions, with bowlers rolling with a red ball and trying to utilise all those skills. Some other numbers to throw at you. The fastest century stand-in tests, with the 100 coming from 13.5 overs, as Crawley was eventually out for 122 and Duckett making 107. But yeah, are England truly revolutionising the way to play Test cricket? Or do you think this bubble will at some point burst?
It's hard to say. It's exhilarating to see it happen. And I hope it can continue from their point of view. I think that against better bowling in different conditions, it's another story. But clearly, this is a pretty good surface to be having a bat on, from the sound of it. And there's no doubt that in most forms of the game, it seems that batsmen excel if they get away against the new ball. Right? It comes onto the bat. It's much easier to score than when the ball gets a bit older and softer and so on. And when you get these belligerent stroke makers like Crawley getting underway so extraordinarily, then you're going to get big scores more often. 400 is going to become a norm on good surfaces, I would think, on any day of a Test match if they get in, as we're seeing here in Perth with the amount of runs being scored. So I think it's, for Test cricket, a wonderful development, as long as we still have balance in the game. And we'll get that in England all the time with the Duke's ball and the fellas like Jimmy Anderson still at 40 who can wobble it around. So, I think days out like the one that England are enjoying at the moment are going to make people think, this Test cricket's all right. They actually hit the ball to and over the boundary as regularly as they do in the T20.
Now to the Women's Big Bash, and it was third time lucky for Adelaide Strikers, who finally won their first WBBL championship and stunned the Sydney Sixers with a 10-run victory in the final. Now Deandra Dottin, who retired from West Indies duty earlier this year, shone with bat and ball, an unbeaten 52 from 37 balls, then bowled a double wicket maiden in her very first over as well. Jim, first of all, just how good is it to see a new team win the WBBL and Strikers to finally get over the line?
It was fantastic, and it was a very good game. I watched, I listened. They played at that little ground at North Sydney, which has the intimate atmosphere with a crowd of 4,000 or 5,000 hugging the boundary line. Nice small ground too, which also helps the scoring. But the Sixers came badly unstuck against the Strikers. Made a few mistakes in the field, got off to a bad start in the run chase, and I think the Strikers, with Dottin performing so strongly, thoroughly deserved their win. But it was a wonderful end to what has been an excellent competition. It is without doubt the premier women's competition, WBBL, and hopefully it can keep up its profile, because I think it's doing a lot to attract people to play. and it's certainly attracting spectators and an audience on radio and television that's putting the women's game in the spotlight.
Well, I think it's going to face some competition from the Women's Indian Premier League when that launches, particularly if whispers of what I was hearing today of how much money would be on offer for the players comes to fruition. But at the moment, you're absolutely right. The WBBL has been the leading tournament. And Sunil, you've been speaking to Strikers victorious Katie Mack.
Yes, indeed, I did. And I started by asking her how it feels for her to say that she's finally a WBBL winner.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I've been at the Strikers for 4 years, which we've made that would have been our third final. So to, I think, come second again would have been pretty devastating. But as well, yeah, I haven't won Big Bash at all, and the Strikers haven't won in 8 years. So I don't reckon there'd be a bunch of girls more relieved, happy, excited than that group of girls were on Saturday.
And so how did you celebrate this maiden victory in the WBBL?
We rehydrated well. I think the best part of most celebrations with sport is getting down into the change rooms, singing that team song. And I was lucky enough that my parents were there and a few other, family and friends were there. So being able to get everyone in the change room, singing the song, the coach doing a bit of it, a chat to the team. It was just, I reckon that's the best way to celebrate. In there straight after the game, emotions are high. And then we're actually pretty lucky we got invited to the town hall in Adelaide and, got greeted by the mayor and the premier and, had a bit of a function there. And I think some of the girls partied hard after that too.
Tell me, Katie, when you came to this particular final, and that you were in 2 consecutive finals, the last one with Perth Scorchers, and I'm just looking at the scorecards here, and they're an eerie similarity. When you lost to the Perth Scorchers, they'd scored 146. The Adelaide Strikers had put on 136. So that was just about 10 runs. And then this one against the Sydney Sixers, you put on 147 and they were 137. So 10 runs each. Isn't that eerie? What a coincidence.
Yeah, I think it also sort of comes back to that theory of getting runs on the board in a final. Because if you'd asked anyone before that game, 140 was definitely on the lower par for that ground, and potentially also Optus Stadium, and we hadn't played there yet. But I think it sort of goes to show that having that pressure to chase definitely is a thing in T20 cricket anyway.
All right, then. Thank you so much for being on Stumped with us.
All right, thanks, Sunil.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. My thanks to Jim Maxwell and Sunil Gupta, and to all of you for listening. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.